now Manchester United have put in 2 decent performances, and I thought it was time to do a little bit of a tactical video on mainly the last 2 games, in particular the out of position shape. So most people would expect the tactic to look along the lines of this right here. Now, most people would expect the tactic to actually look something like this, with 3-4-3 with the 2 wider players, Diallo on the right. I know Eriksen's playing there on the left-hand side, but that's sort of like that Bruno Fernandes role with 2 out-and-out wing-backs. However, to get our off-the-ball shape completely right, Man United have been defending in a sort of like a low to mid-block in a 5-4-1 shape. They've changed from this 5-2-3 shape to a 5-4-1. So it looks something like this. Now, that is a little bit unusual. As you can see, we've got the AP role tucked in really narrow. We're going to explain why in a little bit. But this shape is how Manchester United have been setting up off the ball. The striker role itself will change. We'll talk about that. As you can see, it's a flat back 5, and I'll give the reasons for that as well. That will be all in today's video. We'll find out as well how the tactic looks in FM. We've had 10 league games, 7 clean sheets, so defensively extremely strong. And I'm going to be using this in a little bit of a Manchester United series to finish off FM24, and we're going to sort of like develop this tactic as we go. There'll be seasonal episodes. First one coming out in a couple of days' time, so make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you want this tactic and all the other future Manchester United tactics as we develop this tactic during the series, check out the Patreon. Links down in the description. Thank you to all the legends on the screen right now for your support in 2025. Right, so performance-wise, as you can see, since the Premier League started, it's been pretty damn good. 7 clean sheets, only 1 defeat and 1 draw. The defeat coming to bottom of the table, Leicester. And I've got to be honest, I messed up a little bit. We went 1-0 up, even though as well, Bruno Fernandes missed a penalty in the first half. Harry Maguire got sent off just before half-time, but we did go 1-0 up. We were kind of coasting. We weren't creating a lot, as you can see, but creating good chances. I then went to make a pot noodle on 70, came back literally 30 seconds later, and we were 3-1 down. And that is the only defeat and their only win of the season, which is as top of the league after 10 games. Now, noticeable as well, we haven't played all of the big boys. We've had a really nice start to the season. Palace, Forest, Brentford, Ipswich, West Ham, Leicester, Bournemouth, Southampton, then getting a little bit more difficult. A decent point away at Villa, even though Buendia got sent off to 60. But we have just beaten Manchester City. Rasmus Højlund scoring to make it 1-0, coming off the bench for an injured Joshua Zirkzee. But as you can see from the stats, very good defensively. So if you wanted to do something a little bit different, a little bit more defensively solid, then this is the video for you. As I said, we are going to develop this. I am going to now carry on. So the Manchester United series will carry on with these results, and we look to rebuild the squad and just tweak a couple of things. So looking at the pass maps, putting the one up from Liverpool and Arsenal in average positions, as you can see, Diallo, Garnacho are still generally outlets on that right-hand side trying to link, so we might do something differently with that role. The reason why I've put the 2 fullbacks in as in the defensive line rather as wing-backs is just to ensure that we get that flat 5-4-1. Off the ball, Manchester United have not been passive, but very well structured, not generally high pressing, are still looking for those transitions off the break. So Manchester United have been generally building up with this 5-4-1 structure over the last couple of weeks. It has been a 5-2-3 at times, but in particular game against Liverpool, I think worried about the current form and the mentality of the players, Ruben Amorim decided to go down this route of a 5-4-1, and it really suits Manchester United. I think the only issue in an attacking sense is, yes, it looks super defensive, but I think the main issue is the fullbacks. Mazraoui's doing exceptionally well, however, is not a runner, not a player that can really help with the transitions. The same on that left-hand side. So we all know that they're 2 places that they're absolutely going to need to strengthen. But I do like the structure. And obviously when possession, we get hold of the ball, then it turns to be a Diallo comes in, a Fernandes comes in, and a Dalot and Mazraoui kind of get high, but don't generally get on that last line. Especially Mazraoui here. He normally waits for the overlap before getting into this sort of like final third. I've really enjoyed the back 3. I absolutely love Harry Maguire and the performance he's put in actually over the last 12 to 18 months at Manchester United. Been sort of like ruined by injuries, ruined by bad form, but in this back 3, he's absolutely tremendous. He'll definitely sign a new deal, contract extension, and for right now, I don't think Manchester United really need to look and focus at the defensive part of it. We've got Lenny Yoro to come in. Luke Shaw might not be a bad sort of like left centre-half as well. They may want to go down the route of signing a Jared Branthwaite, potentially, just to make sure that he is in a long-term option when Maguire and maybe Martinez gives us another option as that left centre-half on that side. But I've absolutely loved how these 3 have played. Martinez and De Ligt absolutely love getting involved very tight defensively, love coming into these areas and making challenges. I think playing in the back three suits him, and it definitely suits Harry Maguire, so then he doesn't have to come into these areas here. We know what he's like with his turn of pace, not great at all, but him being the middle of the three, organising the three, or even the five, very close gaps for him to work in, heading, kicking, tackling, has been absolutely superb. And then in front, Ugate's finally got up to speed with Kobe Menu, finally getting up to the speed with the season. Fernandez has been phenomenal the last couple of weeks, and he's really done his defensive job well. It's great to see him as well, being a threat in and around these areas. And then Diallo, Garnacho have kind of held that on. And I think now the tactic has started to come together. Where will players play? We know Marcus Rashford's going to be leaving. And I think it now suits with that playmaker on that left-hand side, with then the pace, the winger side being on this right-hand side. We know Garnacho. I actually do think that Garnacho's better on this right-hand side than the left because his left foot is so poor. He can still glide inside, but it does mean that he can hit the line and get probably some better deliveries in on that right foot. And then the last one being Rasmus Højlund. I actually do think he's been poor. He played all right against Liverpool. He was actually really poor against Arsenal in terms of holding the ball up. I think he only did it once very well when he ended with elbowing William Saliba. At times I would like to see Joshua Zirkzee start because I think he generally can be better at holding up the play. And then what would be a good substitution to do late on in games would then be to bring in a Højlund, and then maybe he would be able to stretch the play against tired legs. Just a little thought. Let me know your thought down in the comments. That role does change as well for me in the FM, depending on who we have playing. So, initially we wanted that 5-4-1. I'm going to put a little screenshot up now. As you can see, it works tremendously well. So at the moment, the team looks a little bit like this, with Mazraoui, Dalot on the wing-backs, Martinez, Maguire, De Ligt, Diallo, Ugarte, Menu, Fernandez, and then Rasmus Højlund. So as you can see, little screenshot. This is our general shape off the ball. Now, we have been changing the line. When Manchester United come up, I think they played Southampton next in the league. When we come up against something like that, where we wanting to really squeeze high. So depending on the team that you're playing, we'll be changing the out of possession instructions. But we're wanting to get that 5-4-1 shaping. Now, the main issue with Bruno Fernandes is that we're tucking him in as an AP rather than a WP. And we'll show you a couple of clips to why that is the case. We're going to go through the team now. So sweeper, keeper, on support, Anana. He's been less going long. Actually, Bayern Dia against Arsenal went extremely long at times. But I think that was to limit the amount of mistakes he was making. But because we've got a back three, back five, it makes sense for Anana to be a sweeper, keeper, on support, not on attack no more. I think he's going to do less of those launches now, especially when we've got a back three all comfortable in possession. The two wing-backs, we've got Mazraoui and Dalot, both wing-backs on support. Now, when I start my series with Manchester United, that'll be coming out in a couple of days. Don't forget, the main role is going to be recruiting this left side and having someone who's a lot more adventurous. We may even get them to start in something like that and have a little bit of an offset. So his starting position generally is a little bit higher. We might do that. However, I do know for a fact that when we do get started properly, we get a proper left wing back in, that will go on to wing back on attack just to give us a lot more down that left-hand side. I think the right side's a interesting one because of the role of Diallo, who's got the legs and the energy. We necessarily don't need an absolute flying wing back on that right-hand side. I think we might need to go and sign a new right wing back, with maybe Mazraoui being a little bit of a more defensive backup. Mazraoui can already play in a back three as well. So the squad's quite not far off being well balanced. A couple of players either side. And I think their defence, goalkeeper, is perhaps sorted short to medium term. So Mazraoui, Dalot, both wing backs on support, no player instructions. I've gone ball playing defender on the two wider centre halves. Now I was going to go wide centre back. However, I necessarily didn't want them going too high as in an attack, and I also want them to be more aggressive out of possession, so that's why I want the stopper functioning. And then the player instructions we've got is that in possession we stay wider, we close down more and mark tighter, so they're really going to go in there and be super aggressive. All right, and that's the same with Martinez on that left-hand side. However, we've gone the instruction of dribble more because he does like to carry at times. Has perhaps been a little bit more adventurous than what a De Ligt has been on the right-hand side. Harry Maguire, the middle one, we've gone ball-playing defender as well because he loves those sweeping passes. He's absolutely tremendous on both feet at putting out them sort of like them 40-yard switches out to the wing-back. So we've gone Harry Maguire, ball-playing defender on cover, tackle harder, mark tighter, and mark-specific position. The mark-specific position, we've got him marking the central striker. So if it's one striker, just a lone striker, I want him going in here. Manchester United were really poor against Ipswich about following these 10s, following these sort of like deep line forwards, these false nines in. And over the last few weeks, they've become more and more confident with it, in particular De Ligt and Martinez. But Maguire goes in there and absolutely clatters people. So we want that from him, but we only want him to do it when the time is right. So I'm thinking if teams are playing a 4-2-3-1, a 4-3-3, if he's then marking a central striker, the striker drops in, he can then go into them areas because he's got a little bit of backup with Martinez and De Ligt, who will generally be a little bit freer, maybe one of them going in maybe to mark a 10. So we're going to get away with that and allow us to really keep putting on that aggressive pressure that them three centre-halves have been doing. Right-hand side is one of these other roles that I think, as the tactic develops, we would probably look at maybe having a real offset formation where we have something a little bit like this, which allows Diallo to maybe work a little bit closer to the striker. We'll press perhaps a little bit higher off the ball as well. But just for now, to get us that really solid 5-4-1 block, depending on what high line, doesn't matter, high line, low block, mid block, we're going to have this middle four looking a little bit like this. So Diallo, inverted winger on attack. I've done no other player instructions. You could say take more risks, shoot more often, perhaps cross left often, stay wider. No, he doesn't, he will hug the touchline at times in this role, but naturally comes in. He does want the two wider players to be a little bit narrower. So inverted winger on attack, no player instructions. We may tweak things at times. I think maybe playing up against the low block, we might ask him just to stay a little bit wider. But generally, inverted winger, no play instructions will work fine. Ugarte, ball winning midfielder on support. And we've gone support because he's been absolutely tremendous at winning balls in and around sort of like the middle third to the final third in terms of our attacking players. So he's been really aggressive in here, as has Kobe Menu. So I've gone support for Ugarte just so he doesn't sit. I want him to be a little bit more aggressive and just be a little bit more supportive in and around the box when we have possession. Deep line playmaker on support for Menu. Dribble more and mark tighter once again so he can help maybe marking a double pivot a little bit. Been really aggressive. They've got that cover of those three centre-halves as well. I think they've got the freedom to press a little bit higher. So we've got Mark Tighter on. And then the Bruno Fernandes role. We did start with him as a WP, wide playmaker. And we've changed it mainly because of these reasons right now. So if we just opened a player, I'll tell you what, we're gonna go back to 2D. Let me know what you think with the tactical analysis where we go to 2D. I'd love to hear your thoughts. It just helps a little bit better with the movement. So we'll highlight all our players. So right now, obviously, Malacia is the left fullback, the left wing back, and he's in a decent area. But they're kind of on top of each other a little bit. I have the WP, the wide playmaker, does have sit narrow in. And for me, it just doesn't sit narrow enough. He should really, I would still expect him to be in this area, and he wasn't. We do actually score from Rasmus Højlund, but we're just going to watch. Look how wide he comes because he knows the player coming out. It's not the case. I want Bruno to be another 10 yards inside, and that will allow him to maybe to get the ball off maybe a Menu here, and then Malacia to go around and be on the overlap, and we don't quite get it. Malacia is the one who exploits that space that's been created by Bruno, who stays wide, and it's kind of gone the opposite way around, and he ends up being a little bit of a bit part in the move and generally in the play. And then as soon as I saw that, I thought, no, that's exactly the opposite of what we want. So then this is where we try to then change it. So now, as you can see, we've got a throw. He's a little bit similar, a little bit higher up the pitch. So this is now him playing as an AP in that offset midfield, and he's right there. So immediately he's so much narrower. Now Malacia is narrower, but we'll just watch the movement of Fernandes here. I think he ends up getting a shot away. Malacia then spins off like you'd expect and opening the play out. But this is where we want Bruno, isn't it? Right there. In a little bit of space so he can get these shots off. He curls it. Good save by the goalkeeper. So immediately he's in better areas. And we've done that by changing the role to an AP rather than a WP, bringing him inside. Out of possession, we still get that screenshot. Look, that 5-4-1. I'm absolutely happy with that. But in possession, we've got a whole host of instructions. So direct passing, tackle harder, roam from position. The dribble more one's an annoying one because it becomes hard-coded into the game once the AP goes on attack. But we do want him to make sure that he's not sat too deep. No, we have got 5 behind him, so we do want to make sure that he gets up and links as much as possible with the centre-forward. Now, talking of the centre-forward, I did say that I would prefer to see Joshua Zirkzee starting at times, and obviously confidence has been not great for him, but now he's got a little bit of a rhythm, doing well against Liverpool when he came on, doing well against Arsenal when he came on, a couple of nice little touches, scored the winning penalty. You may see him feature a little bit more. I think when it is Rasmus, it will have to be a pressing forward on attack. And then when it's Joshua Zirkzee, I've been going a deep line forward, which is his preferred role, deep line forward on support. He does prefer, obviously, balls to feet. He works so well in the Bologna side. That was quite intricate in possession, quite slow tempo. And I think at games against teams with low blocks, he may work better. Said with that then tactical switch of Rasmus coming on for Xerxes in later parts of games. We do need to sign a striker, but I do think for the save itself, I'm probably going to go along the lines of having Xerxes. Xerxes has been my star man so far this season. 2 assists, 3 man at matches, 6 goals in 8 starts, 4 off the bench. Scored a couple of big goals for us already. And then I think I would like to go and sign a new centre-forward to be like the main striker. And obviously we would change that role. I think really we want an advanced forward. I would love to get an Osimhen, and that's going to be my target for the save, to get a Osimhen in with a Xerxes backing up. And we might have to let go Rasmus Højlund. Not quite sure if he's going to be clinical enough to play at this top level. All right, that is the team itself. I'm just going to show you a couple of little interesting things of Joshua Xerxes. So this is both goals that Joshua Xerxes goals. He helps create as well. So we win the ball back. He then obviously drops into spaces. He's very good, Joshua Xerxes, at this, turning and then playing Ahmad, who's always starting in a wide position. But what you do get for that deep line forward, look, he's right in there as a little bit of a touch. It was a great header to put us 1-0 up, but it just shows that the link-up play that is possible if we kind of get a little bit more of a tune, a little bit more confidence out of him. Obviously in FM, it's working tremendously well. And another reason why I think I would prefer to see Xerxes a little bit more is just that he's a little bit more cleverer in terms of holding up the play. He does this so much better in spinning off. He has got a little bit of pace, so he gets in behind late on to make it 2-0. But that just initial link-up play, I think Højlund's at times is a lot more scruffier. Wouldn't generally be able to do things 1 and 2 touch. I know he's been sort of like starved of service a little bit, but he needs to really improve that hold-up play. Be a little bit more cleverer in terms of winning fouls, helping sort of like slow down the pace of the game, where them nitty-gritty fouls, where defenders are coming in at the moment, nicking the ball off him. He should be able to, at this age of his career, still be able to get in front of the centre-half and win more fouls that he actually is doing. Right, last 2 little clips. Ahmad and Xerxes linking for the goal. Just going to show you how well we actually still transition. So we're still getting that from the Manchester United team. So we win the ball down into Mason Mount. Ahmad's found that lovely half space look, and it gives him now the opportunity to cut in onto that favoured left foot. Little slide pass, and Joshua Xerxes is in. He then goes from provider to goal scorer. And what I do like about the link up between these two as well is because Xerxes just started to come off the line, it's very important, look, that we have someone on that last line. So remember, this is the right midfielder. He's not playing as that attacking right midfielder. He's in that midfield slot, out of possession, but because he's got that attack role rather than a support role, he will push right onto that fullback, balls in, and he's getting lots of little efforts. He's had a couple of headers, missed a good one against Liverpool where he misjudged it. He had the one late on against Arsenal when he beat Jorginho in the air. Header just went wide in the last couple of minutes, so he's getting in around. Obviously, the goal against Liverpool he scored by coming in off that side and scoring, I know, from the penalty area, but similar sorts of goals. All right, that's how the tactic looks. The team instructions look a little bit like this. Now, we have been changing the mentality. I think generally the mentality has been positive. We've tried to keep the ball as much as we can. We've tried to attack when we can. I think the Liverpool game, I think, was much better. We caused more problems than what we did against Arsenal. The sending off was absolutely key. And I do still think that we're really struggling with the in-possession stuff, mainly because of the issue that we have with the 2 wing-backs at the moment. So that will change. I've been going balanced and positive. When we're expected to take a little bit more control, I have been going positive. Fairly wide attacking width, play out defence, shorter passing, higher tempo, time wasting, sometimes with work into the box. In transition, no counter-pressing. They do it a little bit, but it's not at the moment a really aggressive counter-pressing structure. Counter-attacking, obviously, and goalkeeper take short kicks to the centre-halves. Now, this is up to you. Against, a lot of the time, it looks a little bit like that, where a really narrow mid-block with a high line. Arsenal was much more defensive with a standard line and a low block. However, if you really want to get this going in FM, you're going to have to squeeze up. I think against, teams where we dominate possession, we're going to be having the team look a lot like that, play very much high in possession. So just alter that depending on maybe game state, your opponent, how you want to play. If you really want to be defensively sound, I haven't gone into a low block. I think that gives us some really good, nice defensive compactness anyway, and it sees the team sit a little deep. Get stuck in is a personal preference. However, I have had Casemiro, Fernandes, and someone else get sent off already this season, so we're maybe going to take that off, and I'm going to save that as the hard-coded one for you Patreons. More often trigger press. So that's the tactic. So we are going to be carrying on this save on YouTube. Season reviews. The first one coming out in a couple of days' time. So make sure you subscribe. We're going to develop this tactic. And as I said, all the tactics, this one in particular, and all future developments of this tactic will be available for you patrons who are supporting the channel right now. Thank you very much for your support. Take care. See you later.